The Division of Virgin Islands Cultural Education knows that you are special because of your culture and heritage. Yes, your heritage makes you special. This year, the Virgin Islands is celebrating its 175th anniversary of the 1848 Emancipation Insurrection. Yes, we're remembering our past and celebrating our future. History can teach us about wrongs we've done to one another in the past. In this case, we see that African people were forced to labor against their will and treated unfairly. In 1848, African enslaved persons in the then Danish West Indies, now the Virgin Islands of the United States, rose up and demanded their freedom. But we must always remain vigilant, because sometimes we as people continue to make the same mistakes. Just 30 years after emancipation, the persons rose up once again as a community of Africans to demand better wages and better living conditions. This event was called the Fireburn. Do you know some of the queens from the Fireburn who helped to make these islands better? Do you know Queen Mary, Queen Matilda, Queen Susanna, Queen Agnes? But our story doesn't start here. As people from the African diaspora, we come from the African continent, which has many different countries with many different types of languages. What parts of culture do you want to carry, and how do you see yourself forging ahead? Do you know that the African continent is home to some of the oldest libraries? How do we take some of this knowledge with us while we move forward? We carry with us dances like the Bambula. We carry with us dances like quadrille, which is creolized with both African and European customs. Our unique culture has been cultivated for many generations. How do you see yourself in the future? Don't forget our built heritage. You can see our identity through the buildings and structures, some found in downtown Charlotte-Amalie, as well as in Cruz Bay and downtown Christiansted and Frederiksted. What is built heritage? Built heritage are the tangible structures that we can find in our towns. They were built with the ingenuity of African craftsmen. Have you been to any of our forts lately? We also take with us parts of our spirituality from Africa, and we can see that through the Mokajumbi art form. We take with us parts of our African diaspora through our foodways. Have you ever had a beignet? Have you ever tasted red pea soup? Have you ever had kalaloo? We are forged in both African traditions and some of our past colonizers' traditions from Europe. We have with us the Christian church, along with our African diaspora spirituality through the art form of masquerading and Mokojumbi. Have you ever worn madras? These are some of the textiles synonymous to the Virgin Islands. Do you know that the Virgin Islands has its own madras? We may always give homage to our farmers as we try to forge ahead in providing food sustainability to make sure that all persons in the Virgin Islands are eating healthy and fresh food. Have you seen some of our sugar mills? What are they? Those are some of the spaces that some of our African enslaved ancestors resided, where we spoke about having unfair conditions that they lived in. But what sugar mills also do is take us back to our past and connect us to our ancestors. Although enslaved, they forged the culture that we live today, and we should always pay homage to them. Before there were classrooms, our baobab trees were formal places where many community members and educators gathered people to provide information and insightful awareness. Who do you want to be? You could be an athlete like Aaliyah Boston, or like Tim Duncan, who's known as the greatest forward of all time in the NBA. You could be a writer like Tiffany Unique, or a teacher like Mr. Melvin Ledesma or Miss Astral Baptiste. You could be an archaeologist or a historian and relate the past to our present. We're celebrating you. It's the week of the young child. Celebrating our youngest learners, and you are special because of your culture and heritage.